Welcome. This is Genetics Notes 3. Okay, we're going to be discussing and going over this on Wednesday in class. I won't be here, so please write down any questions you have and maybe email them to me and I can answer them for you. So, Genetics Notes 3. So, we talked a little bit about genetics, but we're going to really go into more what genetics is. So, I want to know, how are genes passed down? This is one of the questions we're going to be looking at. How do you look like one parent more than another parent? Okay, and is there a pattern to it? Okay, we talked about dominant and recessive, but let's talk about why sometimes you inherit some dominant genes while your siblings might not. Okay, another question we're going to look at is why do traits skip generations? So sometimes, like I have a little sister who has blonde hair, blonde hair. And the only person who has blonde hair in our family are my great grandmother and my great grandfather on separate sides. So obviously that trait skipped several generations. I bet you there's some traits in your family that skip generations too. So, and can we predict the offspring two parents will have? So if we take two parents, can we predict what type of offspring they might have? Like if we have two parents who have blue eyes, will they have a child with brown eyes or no? Like, is it possible? Okay, we're not going to like tell the future, but we're going to try to predict possibilities. So this is stuff these are 3 questions we should be able to answer at the end of this lesson. So first, let's talk about heredity. So we need to first know about what the heredity is. Heredity, okay, is how traits are passed down, or the study of how traits are passed down. Okay? The study of how traits are passed down. Why is heredity important? So there's a lot of reasons why heredity is important. And you don't need to be writing down the answers to these questions. You just need to be kind of writing down the definition. So heredity, I want you to highlight, I want you to write this. And make sure you do this one, heredity, okay? But you don't need this one. This one you do not need, okay? So why this is important is because if we understand our genes, we can understand a lot of diseases. We can understand not only the way we look, but why some people have diseases, and eventually maybe we can cure those diseases. So the first disease I'm going to talk about is Tay-Sachs. So Tay-Sachs is a disease that is very common in people who are French Canadian and people, not very common, but it happens. And people who are French Canadian, people who are Jewish from Eastern Europe, and people who are Cajun, like from Louisiana, from the South, from that area where they're called Cajuns. And Tay-Sachs is a disease, they have no treatment and they have no cure. And when babies are around 10 months old, it starts, or 6 months old, it starts, and basically their brain starts basically decaying. And it's very painful, and they die and they slowly suffer, and they usually don't live past the age of 4. So as you can see, this is a really bad disease to get, and really hard for the family to have this child just be sick with nothing for you to do, and then you know it's going to die. And it's hard for the child to be in pain for all those years. So a lot of people who come from French Canadian, from Jewish, from Cajun ancestry will check and see if they have that gene before they decide to have children. So a lot of times they'll check, they'll do a genetic testing, and they'll see if they have that gene for Tay-Sachs and if they could give it to their child. And as you guys can guess, Tay-Sachs is recessive. Another gene that you can test for is breast cancer. So breast cancer, there's a certain, they've come up with, I think, 2 types of genetic types of breast cancer. There are other types of breast cancer. And if someone in your family has breast cancer, you're supposed to get tested for that gene. And if you get tested for that gene, then and you're positive you have the gene, then that means you have a high risk of developing breast cancer. And what women will often do if they're 25 and they get tested for the gene and they're positive, they'll get a mastectomy, which is they'll get their breast removed. I think there was a Miss America or Miss USA contestant who was going to get a mastectomy after she was 25. She was really pretty and beautiful. She had a beautiful body. She was going to get a mastectomy because she had the gene for breast cancer. So that's the type of thing you can get tested for and prevent against in your own life. Then there's something called PKU. So this boy on the left side over here, he has PKU. And what PKU is, it's a disease that results in mental retardation. And if you find out that you have it when you're a child, like when you're really young in the first few months of birth through genetic testing, you actually can prevent it from happening. So it's really cool because if you don't know you have it, most children with this will develop mental retardation and will be able to learn, and it'll be really, debilitating, get in the way of their lives. But if you know you have it, you can actually change what you eat in your diet, and take certain medications, and you'll be completely 100% normal. So here, this is a picture from a long time ago. You can see they did not know how to genetically test back then. So he did develop mental retardation and problems. And this is why he looks so much different from his sister over here. So those are some reasons why genetics is important. So now we're going to go and talk about the history of genetics and the history of the study of heredity. So there's this dude. His name is Gregor Mendel, right over here. He was an Austrian monk. He lived in a monastery in Austria. He was really into plants. He was a botanist. He loved plants. And he wanted to learn and study how plants, he wanted to study heredity. He was wondering if you mix one type of plant with the same type of plant that has slightly different traits, like a plant with white flowers, you mixed it with a plant with pink flowers, that would cause, if there would be patterns, okay? So he studied pea plants in his monastery, and he didn't really get published until later. He wasn't very well known throughout his life, okay? So here is a pea plant, okay? I bet you didn't know that peas come from plants. They have white flowers, they have leaves, and he studied them, and he discovered that there were all these different traits, and he came up with those terms, allele, and dominant, and recessive. And he also came up with a pattern. So the way he started, okay, here we have this table. The way he started was, so he crossed a plant that was tall with a plant that was short. And he crossed two tall plants. We have a tall plant, we're going to make this a plant, and a short plant, okay? And the way you cross them is you take pollen, in the spring it's all pollen, it's gross, and you take pollen from one plant and you move it to the other plant. And then lots and lots of seedlings come, and you have a generation. And when he realized it's 100% of their children were tall. So he was like, oh, maybe the tall trait overpowered. So he realized the tall trait was dominant. Then he took two of these tall plants, okay, that he had, and he crossed them, okay, and he came up with a third generation. We're going to call this the P1 generation. We're going to call this the F1 generation. And then he had the F2 generation. He discovered that 75% was tall and 25% was short. And this is where it gets interesting. He basically realized that the traits could kind of reappear, and he came up with the idea that you inherit one set of genes from your mother and another set from your father. And he also came up with this idea of Punnett squares, and we're going to discuss that first, okay? So imagine we have the first set of tall traits. So we have your tall plant and your short plant, okay? And this is homozygous, and this is homozygous. Now, the offspring, what you do, okay, is you're going to do something called a Punnett. Second, I want you to write this down in your book, okay? Just watch the first one, and we'll do the second one together. So we have big T. We're going to bring the big T down. Okay? You see how we're bringing it down? We're going to bring this big T down, okay? And now we're going to bring this little t across. And these boxes that I'm going to highlight in a second, okay? These boxes represent all of the possible offspring. All of the possible offspring the parents would have. So if you mix a homozygous tall with a homozygous short, 100% of your offspring will be tall, because they're going to have the big T. So they're going to be heterozygous. So their genotype will be big T, little t. Okay? This is kind of what we did with our penny. So now, let's say we mix two of these together. So we're doing a little bit of incest. So we have big T, little t. This is one parent. We're going to call this the mom. Okay? And then we're going to have big T, little t. We're going to call this the dad. Okay? Now, each one of these represents basically a sex cell of each parent. So it only gives one sex cell to each of your child. So if I were to do the sperm and the egg and they're combining. So our first combination is going to be big T, I'm getting it from here. Big T, that's our first combination. Our second combination is going to be big T, little t. Our third combination is going to be, let's take this one across, big T, little t. And our fourth combination is going to be little t, little t. So now if you look at this, okay, some of you probably are confused, but if I walk you through the steps a few more times, hoping that you get it. If you look at this, we're going to go through each box, right? Each box represents 25%. So you take a square and you divide it by 4, each one's 1/4, and each one is equal to 25%. So here, 25% is going to be equal to big T, little t. So we're going to do this. 25% is equal to big T, big T. So big T is equal to 25%. Now, what is this? If this is a genotype, what is this genotype? Tall, right? Now, we're going to do these ones, okay? Big T, little t, there's 2 of them, right? And 2 out of 4 is equal to 50%. So, big T, little t is equal to 50%. Okay, and those, what are those? Tall. So you could even say that 75%, if you add these together, you get 75% is equal to 12. Now, let's look at the short ones. So over here, this box, only 25%, okay? Little t is equal to 25%. So it's one box out of 4. 1 out of 4 is equal to 1/4 is equal to 25%. That for now. Okay? Little t is equal to 25%. And then that basically means that 25% is equal to short. Okay? So from putting these genotypes through crosses, we can actually tell if you had a parent with this and with this, you could basically tell them that they have 75% chance of having a tall plant and a 25% chance of having a short plant. So we can extend this and we can use something like, for example, Tay-Sachs. Okay, so Tay-Sachs is that awful disease I just told you guys about. So, okay, so let's say you find out that you do genetic testing, and you find out that you are a carrier for Tay-Sachs. A carrier, okay, this is the definition you should put, is someone who holds a recessive gene, okay, but you don't express it. So, for example, this person, it would be heterozygous. It would be like big, we're going to say, we're going to get a D for the disease, big D, little d. So here we have you are the mom, and your genotype is this. So every single offspring you can give half. I guess you're going to give this half, or you're going to give this half, okay? Now, your husband, okay, does not have Tay-Sachs, okay? He does not carry it, okay? So he's going to be fully dominant. He's not a carrier. Is there any chance you could give your child the disease? should you guys think before having children, or should you adopt? Should you adopt or should you have children? So I want you guys to try to do this Punnett square on your own. Drag this one down, okay, to each box, and then drag these across, okay? See, take a second, try to do it. Pause the video. So now let's do it together. We have this one and this one, that's big D in the square. We're going to connect this one and this one, that's big D, little d. This one and this one, that's big D, okay? And this one, which is big D, little d. So now if you calculate the percentages, half of the boxes are big D, little d, and half the boxes are big D, big D. So we have big D is equal to 50%. Big D, little d is equal to 25%. Okay, so now you know, you actually, oh, that's wrong. It's equal to 50%. So, big D, do you have a disease? No disease. Okay? Big D, little d, do you have a disease? No disease. So these people have a 100% chance they're going to have a child without the disease. So it's a good thing. So they can go ahead and have children without worrying. Okay? So now let's do another example. Okay? So, here's this one. Okay? So, you do. Okay? You put the parent phenotype on genotypes on top. So we need our mom genotype on top and our dad genotype. So let's do something like dwarfism. Dwarfism is a dominant disorder. That's when people are really short, like on Little People Big World. So let's say you have my mom, okay, who's a dwarf, and she's heterozygous. So let's say she's heterozygous. We're going to do another one. We're going to make it a W. Okay, our mom's genotype is big W, little w, and our dad is normal size. He is regular, he is 5'10". So he is little w, little w. So we're going to take this, we're going to represent that as sperm, so it has half of his genes. We're going to represent this as eggs, so it has half of her genes. We're going to take them and we're going to combine them. This one we're going to bring down. Big W, little w. This one we're going to take down. Little w, big W, little w. And you see how I'm dragging this down to here? I'm dragging this across, I'm dragging them into here. I'm kind of doing like multiplication tables. So now here, 50% of our children could be big W, little w, and I'm going to highlight this to show you. Okay. See how these are the same? And now another 50% of our child could be little w, little w. So, even running the battery when I'm doing this. Okay, so 50% of our children are big W, little w, which means they have dwarf. Dwarf is dominant, and 50% are little w, little w, which means that they are normal. So these parents could have a child with dwarfism. So those are some examples. Now I want you guys to kind of wrap things up. I want you to try to do this one on your own. Okay? So try to do it on your own. I'm going to do it on my own, and then I'm going to show the results. So here you guys can see the answers to the Punnett square. I want you to check yourself, look through it, and see if you got them right.
Can you like hear my voice on this?
So I want you guys to go and check them. Check yourself, pause the video, see if you got the right answers.
I'll be in the video.
Now I want you guys to do this one. I want you guys to try to figure it out. I'm going to put the answers. I want you to break it down. Okay? Try to do it. I'm going to put the answers up in a second. So here's the answer to A. I'm going to erase it in a second. I'm going to do B. So if you can see I have my homozygous dominant offspring number 1, and I have my heterozygous 2 and a mix. You can see it's 100% wrong. So check and see if you did it correctly, and I'm going to do the next one. So this is B, and you can see it's 100% wrong, and so we didn't get any short whiskered seals. So check yourself, see if you got the right answers, and come in tomorrow with questions.